Central tech videos. In this video, we'll take a closer look at DDI Central's IPAM module, demonstrating how you can visualize, monitor, analyze, and manage the lease data, lease histories, and IP address inventories of each subnet defined in your network. Let's get started. To access DDI Central's IPAM module, log in to ManageEngine DDI Central with your login credentials. Select the IPAM menu from the main menu bar on the left side of the window. This will open a list of 4 submenus within the IPAM module with the Stats submenu selected by default. The first glimpse of the IPAM module you'll see is the IPAM Stats dashboard, which presents a quick aggregated overview of the subnets defined in your network. In the top left section, we have Total Subnet Usage section with a circular donut chart providing a visual representation of the overall utilization of all subnets within the network infrastructure. The number at the center of the chart provides an aggregate measure of the proportion of used subnets compared to the total number of subnets available in the network, offering you a comprehensive understanding of the subnet distribution across the network. Next, we have Usage per subnet displaying a bar chart providing a detailed view of usage of individual subnets within the network. The chart automatically selects and displays top 5 subnets with the highest IP utilization percentages. This selection is based on real-time IP usage data, highlighting the subnets that were most heavily used. Each bar corresponds to a specific subnet and shows its IP utilization percentage. The length of the bar reflects how much of that subnet's capacity is being used. Next, we have the devices usage section in the bottom left corner, which provides a colorful pie chart illustrating a visual breakdown of the distribution of assigned IPs among various hardware vendors, showing how different devices or hardware vendors utilize the network. Each slice of the pie chart corresponds to a specific device or group of devices belonging to a specific hardware vendor. The size of each slice indicates the proportion of total network IP usage attributed to the device or vendor group. Larger slices represent devices or groups that consume more network IP resources, while smaller slices indicate those with the lesser usage. This allows you to see at a glance which device are the most demanding on the network. We have the IP usage section. This section displays a bar chart providing a visual breakdown of the distribution of IP addresses within the network. The chart is divided into 3 distinct bars, each representing a different category of IP address usage. First, we have the fixed addresses, representing the number of IP addresses that are permanently assigned to specific devices or services. Then, available addresses represent the number of IP addresses that are currently unassigned and available for use. Then we have active addresses, which indicates the number of IP addresses that are currently in use by devices or services within the network but are not permanently assigned to those devices or services. The height of each bar indicates the volume of IP addresses in that category. By comparing the bars, you can quickly assess the allocation and availability of IP addresses under each category. This detailed breakdown helps network administrators manage IP address allocation efficiently, ensuring there are sufficient available addresses for future needs while monitoring current IP usage to prevent shortages within the network. Let's move on to the second submenu under the IPAM module, which is the lease submenu. Accessing this submenu will take you to the lease page. This page consists of 2 tabs, DHCP leases and static leases. There are 2 types of leases available in DDI Central, which is the DHCP leases and static leases. DHCP leases represent those IP assignments made with the help of a DHCP server as per the scopes and IP plans defined using the DHCP Scope Manager. Accessing the DHCP leases tab will display a visual snapshot of the lease volume for that particular subnet that you've chosen over here and the list of IP addresses leased by the DHCP server from this specific subnet at that period of time, the total lease duration, the current availability state of the IP, the MAC address and the manufacturer details of the host device associated with the IP address during the lease period and the type of the connection. You can select the relevant subnet from the drop-down in the top right corner to view the leases within the selected subnet and adjust the timeline using the drop-down calendar to visualize and list the leases from a specific point of time. You can also click on the red delete icon at the extreme right end to delete leases from both the DHCP lease file and DDI Central's database. By doing this, the same lease will not be reassigned to that particular user. Instead, the user will receive a random DHCP lease from the relevant subnet. You can also export these lease records and download them as a PDF file or a CSV file for future reference or analysis. Now let's select a particular IP address from this subnet. So we'll be targeting the IP address 100.100.100.24. So let's click on it to view its history records. Selecting an IP address from the subnet will take you to the history page for that IP address, displaying the following sections: DNS relations, history, DNS queries, and device usage. The first section, DNS relation, displays a list of domain name records that were previously leased with the selected IP address. It includes information such as the type of record, the exact fully qualified domain name linked to the record, and the root domain of the record. Next, we move on to the history section. The history section provides a comprehensive audit trail detailing the evolution of the IP address over time. It includes all the essential data on IP allocations, such as the lease period, the type of connection, and precisely indicates the availability state of the IP address after the entire span of the lease. It also includes rich metadata associated with the leased IPs, such as host names, MAC addresses, hardware vendor data, DNS records, and DNS query analytics to the IP. Now let's dive deeper into the DNS queries part. The DNS queries section that you get to see here is broken into two parts to help you quantify and visualize the DNS query volume handled by the IP during its association with various FQDNs. The section on the left lists a historical overview of the total query volume to each specific FQDN when the IP was associated with each of the FQDNs. The section on the right represents line graphs to help you visualize the hourly query volume handled by an IP when it was associated with different domain names along a custom time frame. To analyze these hourly readings more accurately, ensure you select a custom time frame from the drop-down calendar at the right corner within the same section. At the end of the page, we have the device usage stats. The device usage list on the left comprises a table listing the names of the device manufacturers along with the number of times the specific IP address was assigned to devices from that particular hardware vendor. On the right hand side, the donut chart provides a visual breakdown of the distribution of the targeted IP addresses to various devices from different manufacturers. Let's navigate to the static leases tab under the lease submenu. Static leases, also known as fixed or reserved IP addresses, refer to the assignment of a specific IP address to a device within a network that does not expire or renew. This practice is particularly useful for devices that are permanent fixtures of the network and require consistent addressing for reliable operation and easy access. For instance, servers often have static IPs due to their critical role in the network, whereas client devices like smartphones can operate effectively with dynamic IPs. Static leases are meant for essential corporate devices like routers, printers, and security cameras. Despite their importance, static leases are often managed or maintained in a spreadsheet. Enable network administrators to import, centralize, and simplify the management of all static leases. DDI Central allows admins to easily import the active static subnet leases that they manage in a spreadsheet already created on the DHCP server. These static leases can be imported into DDI Central in two ways. So you can create a static subnet under the DHCP module. Just go to into the DHCP module, select network submenu, and here navigate to the static subnet tab. Here click on add static subnet. So you'll be creating a static subnet over here. Give all the details just like how you create a subnet, and then you save the configurations. Once the static subnet is created, you can start importing the leases. So DDI Central just imports the columns as respective fields. So when you import static leases with a defined static subnet on the network page under DHCP module, the columns including the network address can be in any order. So I'll show you sample file. So this is how the static leases are maintained in a spreadsheet. So this is a sample file for your reference. So when importing static leases with a static subnet already defined on the network page under the DHCP module, including the details like network address, the lease period and everything, the details can be in any order. DDI Central just imports the column as respective fields and displays the data in the spreadsheet under the corresponding fields on the static leases page. Or you can just get into the IPAM module, select lease submenu and then navigate to the static leases tab and just click import. So whether you define a static subnet or do not define a static subnet, all you can do is import your leases file into DDI Central. So the acceptable file formats are .xls, .xlsx and .csv format. When importing static leases from a spreadsheet file into DDI Central without a predefined static subnet, ensure that the first column of the spreadsheet corresponds to the network address of the static subnet. The subsequent columns can be in any order, along with their labels and data will be imported as respective fields into DDI Central. So you can have a look at the sample spreadsheets available in our user guide for your reference. As you update these leases, ensure that the updates adhere to a column order. Once you import your static leases, which are in the form of spreadsheets into DDI Central just imports the columns as respective fields and displays the data in the spreadsheet under the corresponding fields on the static leases page. So we'll click on As you can see on the screen, DDI Central just imports the columns as respective fields and displays the data in the spreadsheet under the corresponding fields on the static leases page. As you update the leases, ensure that the updates adhere to the column order defined in the spreadsheet. A mix-up in the order may lead to errors or prevent the import of static leases into DDI Central. The field configuration for static leases derived from the spreadsheet is cluster specific. Ensure that the columns in all spreadsheets used for importing static leases maintain the same order as the file used for the initial import. DDI Central also allows the following actions once the static leases are imported. Click on the Add button and select Custom Field from the menu that appears to add a custom field which will then be appended to the fields list already imported along with the spreadsheet. So here you can define your custom field and the default value. You can also add new leases individually using the Add button and then select the Lease menu that appears to add a new static lease directly from DDI Central console. All the fields defined in your spreadsheet file during the first import will appear as form fields where you must enter all the values one by one. Be sure to click Save once you're done adding the values. You can also edit the column label directly from the UI, just hovering around and clicking on the Edit button at the right side of each label. Once you start managing your static leases directly within DDI Central without using a spreadsheet, you can export these static leases for further analysis or report generation. You can do so by clicking on the small gray spreadsheet icon located near the subnet drop-down list box at the top right corner of the page. This allows you to export and download your up-to-date static leases as a CSV file. Now let's see how to visualize and take control of the IP allocations for the VLANs managed by the DHCP server in your network. For this, select the VLAN submenu under the IPAM module. From the left menu bar, the VLAN page appears, displaying the list of VLAN serviced by the DHCP server. Here you can search through the list for a specific VLAN by its VLAN ID. In addition, you can directly download the current VLAN stats report and download them as a PDF or a CSV file for future references or analysis. Click on an VLAN entry from the list to view detailed stats on that specific VLAN from its stats page. So this is the stats page. Since VLANs are logical segments defined atop dedicated subnets, you will find only stats of the subnet associated with this VLAN. Along the top section of the stats page, you can find the VLAN ID and the VLAN name, along with the essential details like the network address, the dedicated subnet, leasing out IP addresses to the VLAN, the total number of available IPs in the subnet for the VLAN, and the number of active IP addresses allocated to the VLAN. The mid section of the stats page displays certain essential stats like VLAN usage. This illustrates the percentage of IP usage within the VLAN, number of IPs in the subnet. This is a donut plot that illustrates and quantifies the volume of subnets IP addresses based on their availability states, including available, active, abandoned, fixed, and free. So let's see what are all the type of IPs. So available IPs are those IPs that are not currently assigned and are ready for allocation. Active IPs represent those IPs that are currently in use and assigned to active devices on the network. And then the abandoned IPs are those that were previously assigned but are no longer in use or have been released. The fixed IP addresses are reserved for specific devices or purposes, ensuring they are not allocated to other devices. The free IP addresses typically include both IPs that are available for immediate assignment and those that are reserved but not currently in use. And then we come to the bottom section, which displays the list of IP addresses within the subnet dedicated to the VLAN along with their availability states. Now let's explore how to manage the IP address inventory of your network using DDI Central's IPAM to visualize and take control of the IP addresses of each subnet managed by the DHCP server. Get into the IPAM module and select Manage IP submenu from the left menu bar. The Manage IP tab displays three sections: Manage IP, number of IPs, and subnet usage. First, select the subnet of your choice from the drop-down list in the top right corner of the page. Manage IP on the left displays the list of IP addresses within the subnet along with their statuses. There's also a tools menu adjacent to each IP address entry that offers options like ping and telnet. Ping can be used to verify if the IP address listed is reachable. Telnet can be used to check if the service on a specified port, say port 443 of the targeted IP address, is accessible and responding correctly. You can also change this port number as per your requirements. And then you can click on any available or free IP address from the list. This directly takes you to the host page. Here you can directly assign the chosen IP address as a fixed IP address to any host or client. The number of IPs at the top right visually depicts the volume of IP addresses in different availability states along a donut plot. Subnet usage at the bottom right corner illustrates the overall percentage of IP utilization within that subnet. In this video, we were able to show you how DDI Central's IPAM module not only integrates the three core network services, but also correlates and helps us analyze them in one central interface. As we saw, behind the lease history of a particular IP, you can view how it is captured and correlated with DNS records, DHCP lease information, and IP address allocations to various hosts within the network over time. This ability of DDI Central's IPAM to map upstream relationships among these core services makes it a key contributor as a centralized and contextualized network source of truth. With DDI Central's IPAM, you can easily have your three core services in sync, making network management even more efficient. And this marks the end of our video. Thank you for watching. Dive deeper into the world of DNS, DHCP, and IPAM with us and discover how to use DDI technology to streamline your network operations. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more insightful content from DDI Central. In this video, we were able to show you how DDI Central's IPAM module not only integrates the three core network services, but also correlates and helps us analyze them in one central interface. As we saw, behind the lease history of a particular IP, you can view how it is captured and correlated with DNS records, DHCP lease information, and IP address allocations to various hosts within the network over time. This ability of DDI Central's IPAM to map upstream relationships among these core services makes it a key contributor as a centralized and contextualized network source of truth. With DDI Central's IPAM, you can easily have your three core services in sync, making network management even more efficient. And this marks the end of our video. Thank you for watching. Dive deeper into the world of DNS, DHCP, and IPAM with us and discover how to use DDI technology to streamline your network operations. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more insightful content from DDI Central.